This is a video for readers, so if you are someone who is just trying to get into reading and looking for recommendations of specific books, this is not it. Hello, I'm alive. This is a video I've done last year as well. It kind of falls into my series of you recommend books because I'm just one single unit. I'm just a little guy, it's my first day here. But I can be a tool to get information from you guys to the rest of you as well. I have strictly asked you on Instagram to pick one and only one book that is the top of the list for you, that you are super excited for being released in 2024 from the books that have been announced and people are anticipating, of course. But if the book does appear here, just know that it's very special to someone and is their literally top most excited release of the next year. Because we have quite a few titles, I'm not going to be pitching those apart from showing you the cover and telling you in like 3 to 5 words what sort of genre category it is in. I know this might not be the preferred format for some, and that's totally okay. There's so many other videos that probably will do a much better job than I will. But for those who do think this sounds like their cup of tea, grab a pen and grab a list because we're just diving in. I'm gonna try and keep this as concise as I can for our TikTok influence attention spans. So 2024, here we go. We have 2 releases mentioned coming out on the 2nd of January, might already be out depending on how long it took me to edit this. The second book in the Song of the Last Kingdom series called Dark Star Burning Ash Falls White, which is a YA mythology retelling based on ancient China folklore. Also a YA Regency fantasy called Fragile Enchantment. On the 9th of January, we have the 3rd book in the Atlas series. It's called The Atlas Complex, and it is probably, I want to say, a top 5 book that was mentioned on the list. Highly anticipated. It is a dark academia fantasy. Another one that was mentioned quite a bit, Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands. This is a second book in the Emily Wilde series, and it is a fae fantasy in the adult category. And we have the 3rd and I believe the final installment in the Defy the Night YA fantasy dystopia. It is called Destroy the Day. 3 days later, on the 26th, we have The Ever Queen, which is a romantasy, pirates and fae. I want to say coming in 3rd or 2nd place, and the most anticipated reads, 3rd book in the Crescent City series. It's called House of Flame and Shadow, and it is due out on the 30th of January. Very, very highly anticipated. Moving on to February. A very popular day for releases, apparently, the 6th of February. The Strength of the Few, which is the 2nd book in the Hierarchy series. It's a high fantasy adult academia. We have another sequel coming out. This is for the Shades of Grey series called Red Side Story. It's a sci-fi dystopia based on what colors you can see. And we also have The Tainted Cup, which was by one of the reviewers pitched as Knives Out but fantasy, which is a fantasy mystery thriller. Also a new Ali Hazelwood book. I had it on my list. I can't find it for some reason, but that did come up quite a few times, so including it this way. Moving on to the 7th of February, we have Wandering Stars, generational fiction in the contemporary category. Another one that was mentioned a few times is The Warm Hands of Ghosts, historical fiction, paranormal elements about a war and a sister and a brother. Sunbringer was also one that was mentioned quite a few times. It is the 2nd installment in the Fallen Gods series. It's an adult fantasy with mythology elements coming out on the 15th. This one is specifically a US release, but Set of Blood and Ruin comes out on the 20th of February in the US. It is a Zorro retelling. We also have another release that was mentioned a few times. It is Tempest of Tea. It's a high YA fantasy with vampires. 27th of February, we have Fatebreaker. It is the 3rd and I think maybe a final installment in the Realmbreaker series. It is a YA high fantasy with romance. As well as on the 27th, we have Kindling, which is an YA epic fantasy standalone, a rarity. And on the 29th of February, which apparently we do have in 2024, we have The Crimson Moth, which is an enemies to lovers YA witches and witch hunters story, as well as what I think could be, you know, a tiebreaker between Crescent City and the mentioned books, which was a little bit surprising to me. Empire of the Damned, which is the 2nd book, Empire of the Vampire, which is a vampire adult fantasy, also coming out on the 29th of. Moving into March. The 5th, we have The Prisoner's Throne, which is the second book in the Stolen Heir, Hulk of the Air spin-off series. It's a YA fantasy fae series. It is a duology, so I believe it is the last installment in that. Then on the 21st of March, we have Song of the Huntress, which is by the author of the Sister Song. It has also gotten a few votes in the answers. It's pitched as a book perfect for fans of Circe and general mythology books. Then on the 28th of March, we have The Weavers of Alamaxa, the Alamaxa duology, so it's the last book in that duology, and it is an adult Egyptian fantasy. To finish off March, we have A Song of Chaos, which is the 4th book in the Witchling Chronicles, and it is a poly-fae romantasy. Going into April, and on the 2nd of April, we have quite a few things. I really wanted to create like a little calendar thing, but then a lot of these dates seemed like people seem to really have specific dates. I'm sure there's a reason for it, you know. There's too many books in the same date, so the calendar idea did not quite pan out, but I'm gonna try and figure out the graphics here for the visual learners amongst us. Court of Wanderers, which is the second book in the Reaper series, adult vampire fantasy. There's a lot of vampire action happening. There's a lot of titles with the word ghost in it on the list as well. And we have A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. This is by the author who wrote A Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. It's not related to that, but it is very similar to that from what I understand, which is a cozy witchy fantasy. Then we have a 6th installment in the Sun Empire series called Disquiet Gods, sci-fi space opera. And another one for the same day, we have The Reappearance of Rachel Price by the author of Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which is a YA thriller mystery. I am personally very excited about that one. On the 9th of April, we have Ghost Station, which I've never heard of before, but actually had quite a few votes, so I'm definitely looking into that. It is a sci-fi adult horror book. And then the probably number 4 on the anticipated list was The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, who has absolutely quote-unquote won, because there's not really a winning, last year's most anticipated with Hellbent. This year coming back with The Familiar, historical fantasy set in Spanish Golden Age. And then another release on the same day, Daughter of Mine, which is a small town thriller mystery. By far the most anticipated romance book on the list was Funny Story, which is another Emily Henry book. The Husky and His White Cat Shizun, Volume 5, but I couldn't quite crack it out if it's a graphic novel, but I think it actually is just a novel. But it seems to be a queer romantasy? Question mark? I could be wrong on this one. On the same day, also, The Dead Cat Tail Assassin. It just seems to be a day for quirky titles, and it is an adult fantasy with gods and assassins. Another book that appeared a few times is Heavenly Tyrant, which is the second book in the Iron Widow series, and that is a YA fantasy. Straight to the middle of the month, the 14th, we have The Honey Witch, which is a queer adult witchy fantasy. Then on the 21st of May, we have The Last Murder at the End of the World, the mystery thriller sci-fi solve the murder kind of deal. And that's it for me for your anticipated releases. Going on to June, the 4th of June, we have Mirrored Heavens, the third book in the Between Earth and Sky series, probably better known by the first book's title, Black Sun. It is an adult high fantasy, as well as we have Daydream, which is a hockey romance or a sportsy romance series. I know the first one was a hockey one. I don't know if they continue in the hockey route, but it's called Maple Hills, the series. On the 6th of June, we have Killing Time, which is a time travel sci-fi, so you know I will be checking that out. I had no idea, so thank you. On the 16th of June, we have The West Passage, and it is an adult high fantasy with giant ladies of eldritch origin. Moving on to my birthday, Hearts That Cut, which did appear a couple of times in the mentions, and it is the second book to the Threads That Bind series. It's a YA fantasy mythology inspired by Greek stuff. And a new Riley Sager, for those who love their writing, it's Middle of the Night, which seems to be a suburban mystery thriller. July, straight into the 16th, The Blackbird Oracle, which seems to be the 5th book in the All Souls series, but better known as Discovery of Witches, which obviously is a witches paranormal book. And then the 23rd, when we get Queen Bee, It is a prequel novella to the Her Majesty's Royal Coven. On the 6th of August, a new book by the author of Red, White and Royal Blue comes out. It's called The Pairing and seems to be a bisexual romance. And we also have The Mercy Gods, which is extremely excited because I actually did not know about this. It appeared a few times in the list. Very excited to see the amount of sci-fi books just generally on this list. Like, I clearly attract the right people. This is by the same author who wrote the Expanse series, and it's a new epic space opera, so if you're intimidated by the Expanse series, this could be a good shout. I'm personally mucho excited about that one. And then on the 8th of August, we have Apprentice to the Villain, which is the second book to Assistant to the Villain series, which is like kind of like a funny romance. On the 13th of August, Ghostsmith, which also appeared quite a few times in the list. Second book of the House of the Dead series, better known by the title of the first book, Bonesmith. It's a YA paranormal fantasy. We also have The Ending Fire, the final book in the Ending Fire trilogy. The first one, called Final Strife, is an adult fantasy. The 20th of August, we have A Sorceress Comes to Call, New Kingfisher, so of course it is a dark retelling of something, and this time it seems to be Brothers Grimm Goose Girl. And we also have Wisteria, which is the third, I want to say final book to Belladonna series, and it's a YA fantasy with a healthy dose of romance. 3rd of September, we actually get a new Matt Haig book. It's called The Life Impossible, and it's a kind of heartfelt contemporary. And then on the 10th of September, we have Somewhere Beyond the Sea, 5th or 6th on the list of the anticipated reads as well. It's the second book in the Cerulean Sea series, an adult cozy fantasy, as well as we have Silverborn, also appeared quite a few times. 4th book in the Nevermore series for the middle grade fantasy. 17th of September, The Land of the Living and the Dead, which is the third book in the Guile Song, I'm not sure. It's an adult mythology fiction. The 24th of September, the Percy Jackson fans will gonna be very excited about the 7th book in the Olympians branch of Percy Jackson, Wrath of the Triple Goddess. Only have one thing in October. Of course, the further in the year we move on, the less we know about. Is on the 22nd, Scorched Earth is the 4th book in the Dark Shores series, which is a YA pirate romantasy. I have nothing for you in November that you're excited for. We did kind of save the best, according to you, for last, because on the 6th of December, we have the unequivocally #1 most anticipated book choice. But that is, of course, Wind and Truth, the 5th book in the Stormlight Archives series, the finale to the first half of the series, because it's going to be 10 books. So I understand the hype. And the last book on your list, The Relentless Legion, on the 12th of December, which is the 3rd book in the Divide sci-fi space opera. But that actually completes the list. Let me know if your most anticipated was on the list or if it wasn't. I have managed to collate most of the answers, but definitely not all, because there were a lot and I might have missed some. I do apologize if so. But I hope this was useful. I hope you noted down some books that you weren't aware are coming out in 2024 or were validated in your knowledge of books coming out in 2024. I do have a year of adventure in Eldia coming up to you soon. I'm just behind on everything because just am. Alright, have a good one. I will see you hopefully soon. Bye!